What's up guys? So I'm going to be doing some taxidermy for you. I got a nice spec to do. So this video I'm going to be pretty much teaching you how to skin the head. So I got tons of specimen in the freezer that I'm going to be doing throughout the summer. So I'm just going to break it down in parts, and if you're learning taxidermy, hopefully these little videos will be able to help you out. So if you're thinking about getting into it, you can probably just watch them in parts and just grab whatever you have questions on and hopefully learn something. Follow along with me. I'm gonna go ahead and cut on this GoPro so that way you can kind of see up close of what I'm doing. And first, let me get into the only things I use when skinning, fleshing, and then washing. I'll break down the stuff you need. So obviously you need like a scalpel or X-Acto knife, a duck or a goose, a pair of snips, a measuring tape. You need a flesher to be able to flesh. And if you're wondering what that is, I made a video already on actually how to use this. I've used it now on, shoot, I can't remember how many ducks and geese, but I mean, it's worked for me. So it's definitely something to look into and go ahead and make it. I got the video, it breaks down all the products and all that sort of stuff. Just look on the channel, it's under the taxidermy playlist. Then for washing, really all you need is just Dawn dish soap and then your sink. If you have a dual sink, it works a lot better because then you can be using one while the other one's filling up with water, and then you can swap over, use that one while that one's draining, and then just keep going back and forth. So that way you're just not working with one tub. But Dawn dish soap, don't use anything else. It works. Now the reason why you need a measuring tape, you also need like a piece of paper and also a pencil or a pen, so that way you can write down all the measurements. So you want to measure like the neck, the body, and then I also like to have it without even cutting into it. I make some measurements already just to get an idea when I go to the actual hanging process. So I know if my neck is too long or too short, instead of just going eyeballing it, because then you can still cut the material and it be somewhat off. So I like to measure from like a super thing to identify on a bird. So like the speckle belly, for example, like that first bar, I'll measure from that first bar all the way to the very tip underneath its chin. So you'll see me when I go to skin that out. So that way I have that rough estimate on how long the actual neck is. So when I actually go to hang it, I can be like, oh, well, that's like 2 inches too long, or it's an inch too short. I can turn around and take it out from the foam, add some more neck material or take some away, and finish it up so that way it doesn't look odd. But I'll go ahead and shut up and show you how I skin the head. And also, if you're looking into doing European mounts, to where some guys are starting to get into skinning heads and then like bleaching them and then like hanging them from their rearview mirror, this would be a perfect video for you. So hang tight. All right, so I'm probably going to be talking all through this, so that way I can kind of explain what I do. But obviously, once you get them thawed out, what I like to do, and this is going to help you out when getting this cheek, is opening up the bill. It's not called a beak, it's called a bill. Open up the bill all the way, so that way you can get tension on the skin and you can cut out that cheek line a lot easier. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with this corner. We'll work our way up with the X-Acto knife and then just work our way around the seam. So you'll see with the way that the skin is, you almost want to use your finger and put some pressure back up against where it's connected onto the bill. It helps you get a little bit of tension on it, so that way you can actually make the cut. Because if you don't do that, it's going to float on you and you got a real good chance of losing a lot of material. When I say material, the feathers and the actual skin, losing the material because it'll float. So you can see, like, that only took just a couple seconds just to get around that bend there. So, and you also got to watch too when doing this head. You got to keep in mind that you're going to be twisting it around, moving it, So you want to watch what you're doing with this neck, because you don't want to put, you know, too much tension on the neck itself, to where you end up getting a rip or stretching it out more than what it needs to go. So just keep in mind that you still got the body still attached. Some people wait on this process of cutting out the skin around the bill and doing the head until they're like later on and they're about to actually like finish up with the body, after the whole body's been skinned out. But me, this is the most tedious part and it takes the longest. I can do the body like, I wouldn't say really fast, but I can do it somewhat quick. So I'm really not worried about this drying out on me. And if you're worried about it getting dried out, what you can do is wet a paper towel, and once you get the head out, you get that wet paper towel, you can stuff the head with it. So now that's all skinned all around nicely, so we're going to go ahead and knock out this cheek. So I normally just stick my thumb up in the mouth there and get my tension back, and then run my X-Acto knife around where the feathers are meeting that cheek material. If you hear any background noise, it's a dog. He likes to sit and watch, and sometimes he'll climb up in the chair back behind me. Alright, so that's disconnected now. Go ahead and try to free it up a little bit more. Alright, so working on this bottom part. That's where I heard a lot of people have issues with, because you got to keep in mind this bill, it almost has like a point to it. So even ducks have the same thing. So you want to make sure that you get this V mark. It almost makes like a V. So you cut that V out right there. You get to the top of the notch, you stop, you come around this side, and you can let that mouth close at this point because it's not going to help you by keeping it open. And then you come around the opposite side of the V and make your incision, and then run it on down. And you can see how these feathers, you know, go down into the actual bill itself. And hopefully the camera is focusing for you. If not, you can just let me know down in the comments if you want me to explain some of this a little bit better. But it's really not that hard. Once you start playing with it, I say just get you like a coot, or, you know, a trash duck, like a hooded merganser or something like that. And, you know, just play with it. Go ahead and try to open one up. Take a look at, you know, the anatomy of it. How all the structures are formed to one another. Alright, now we're getting back down to the cheek side. Not forgetting to put pressure against it to make sure our lines are nice and clean. Now, I laid this bird out last night. I should have laid him out a little bit earlier because he's still pretty cold. Which is good and bad, because completely thawed out it's a little bit easier to do, but you don't want to get them warm, because then you got a chance of them, you know, going bad on you. But I should have laid them out a few hours earlier than what I did, because the body is still somewhat cold and icy. All right, now he's all cut all around the bill, so the bill's completely disconnected from the skin. Now what I like to do is start from the bottom and get this this piece completely done, because the top I feel like is a lot easier for me. If you've been doing taxidermy for a while and you just happen to be watching this video, you probably, I don't know, possibly do it different, but I like to free up this bottom part first, and then I work my way around. So some people use like their fingernails and put to be able to put tension back on the skin and pull back on it. But the thing is at this very early stage, you kind of don't want to do that, because his feathers, depending on how long this bird's been in the freezer, the feathers can slip, and by slip I mean, you know, detach, and you lose a lot in the facial details. So I normally try to get it started enough to where it's not gonna affect it by using my fingernail to put pressure back on it. You just gotta take your time. Let the scalpel work for you. And see, I almost got it freed back, almost like a, let's say about 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. I'm not a carpenter, so I can't really judge distance like that. But it's freed up enough. And I just continue working my way around. But you're going to want to hang around, because once we get to the eyes and the ears, it's a little tricky. And I got my own little thing I do for it that you may or may not already do. So like I said, some guys use their fingernail to pull back. So that's what I'll do to like try to give myself enough room to get the scalpel underneath, instead of just automatically peeling back on it. Alright, so we're done with the top of the head there. We're going to move back to the cheek on the other side. I'm hoping y'all can see this. I'll know once I edit the video, but if you can't really see, I mean, that's the reason why I'm talking, to try to talk you through it. There we go. Yeah, if you get hung up on a spot, using your fingernail to put some tension to kind of break it free, so that way you got some room to work with, and get that X-Acto knife underneath it. It will help you out. And let's say that when you're cutting the skin and you still got some like bill material on like the edge of it, you can come back and clean that off. That's not a big deal. But the big thing is that you don't want to lose material, because you can't add it back. So that bill, you're going to be using an artificial head anyway, so it doesn't matter if you take away from that. And if you make your own bills or your own heads, kudos to you. I will never do that. It's too much that goes into it. So we'll use our fingers on the jaw here, in the bottom of the jaw, and you'll notice back on this this back part, you still have to use your knife because of the way that's the connective tissue is. It will it won't disconnect. It's like slimy and nasty. So I always like to pull back not as much as I can, but enough to open it up. And if I see it like that right there, like some of that cheek muscle start to come with it, I'll pop back in with the X-Acto knife and break it free. So it's just less meat and stuff that you gotta flesh off. But I will say my biggest tip when skinning is if you really take your time with it and mindful of where you're cutting and what you're cutting, it will make fleshing a lot easier. Because if you're just willy-nilly going along with it, trying to do it as fast as you can, you're going to end up getting a lot of junk with the skin. And then you're going to have to go back and use the flesher and get all that stuff off. There we go. That's good enough on that side. So now we're getting down to close to where the eyeball is on the side, on this side at least. So what I like to do is stick my finger and I can feel like where that eye socket starts. I'll stop right there and then I'll flip to the bottom and I'll work the bottom down as far as I can get it. So without putting too much tension on the sides, because once you start working that eye, doing it the way I do it, it will help you out a lot more when doing the eyes. If you get the top and the bottom down as far as you can. We're just going around the edges. Alright, so this side we're about to free up until we get to the socket. Okay, we're there. Now we'll go ahead and do the top of the head. Go ahead and do the old fingernail trick on her. Get it far back as we can. Alright, so we'll start with this eye first. So you can see like there's like a connective tissue that connects right there. So you want to watch what you're doing here because you don't want to cut that eyelid. If you're just doing a European mount, then, you know, and you're not actually per se like taxidermying the skin, then you shouldn't have to worry about this part. But what I do is I get it right to where I see like the skin going down, and you'll see this once you start doing it. You'll see the skin start going down and that connective tissue connecting. You want to make sure that you cut along that edge. You'll see or feel the eyeball pop because a whole bunch of fluid will come out and then make a hole. So what I do is I'll keep tension up against that. I cut that connective tissue and I just pinch and I pull back because you want to keep as much of that eyelid as possible. If you turn around and just, you know, keep skinning the skin, you're gonna eventually rip into the eyeball, and it's not gonna be a good day for you. Because trying to fix the eyelid, good Lord, I can only imagine. You can see how like I can't get tension in some parts, and it's just the skin's running away on me. That's what I was talking about before. That's why you want to free up that bottom part as far as you can, because that's what's causing that. Not being able to get that tension. This bottom part's keeping me from doing that. So once I start having troubles, I'll turn around and go back, free up some of the bottom around it. And don't put too much pressure on it because that eye's not finished yet. So now's a good time to switch and do the other eye. Yeah, the more tension that you can get back on it, it makes this getting the eye a lot easier. And you just find where that, you can see the eyelid right there where it's starting. You find where it's connecting to the actual eyeball itself, and you just trim around it. Being sure not to open up that eyelid anymore. I got most of that eyelid done on this one. Alright, so we'll work our way back around to all the stuff that's tight. Keep freeing up that skin. Now the next hard part, I shouldn't say necessarily it's hard, but the next spot that you want to keep an eye out on and not forget about is the ear, or the ear opening. Alright. And that ear is normally, if you look at the eye and you got the bill off to the left, it's normally like right around the back side of its head, right below the eye. So probably maybe a ½ inch or whatever. It depends on what you're doing. So if it's a duck or a goose. So like I said before, this eye wasn't completely done yet. So if you stop and you're coming back to it, you just gotta keep in mind what you did not do before. I'm just trying to cut off all this connective tissue that was still touching the eyelid. But hopefully y'all can see how keeping your fingernail on it will help you out. Alright, so we're almost down to the ear on that one. Finish up this eye on this side here. That leftover tissue. right, we're about to the ear on that one. So both sides, we're down to the ear now. So what we're going to do on the top of the skull is really easy to go ahead and peel off the rest of the tissue that's holding it. Alright. So the head is pretty much done. Now we just got the last part of the ears. So this is where, like I said, you have to be paying attention to what you're doing and not forget what's coming up next. So this ear, you want to kind of do the same thing as the eye. You'll see a part of the skull when you come to it. Hopefully I can get down close enough to where, hopefully it's focused. You'll see where like the skin's feeding down into it. You want to make sure that you make your incision super clean and not going along the skin, because what you'll do is make that ear hole bigger than what it needs to be. Because when you go to mount it, you're not going to see it. But if you make that hole a lot bigger than what it needs to be, you're going to lose material. And that's it on that ear. So, as you can tell as a reference, it's probably about as wide as your finger going down from the ear. So, go ahead and get this side. Alright, that ear is all cleaned up now. So what I like to do is get the ear to the point where it's completely disconnected. Like this one kind of got hung up there. And then some people, and if you watch other videos of doing this, some people will turn around and strip it the rest of the way by using pressure. I don't like doing that because you're adding stretch to this neck. So what I'll do is I'll feed it back about midway. I'll keep doing exactly what I'm doing, going around. I'll add a little bit of pressure, obviously, to be able to cut that connective tissue, just to open it up. But I'll just keep working my way around the neck. That way, I'll show you for a little bit and I'll end up stopping, but I'll work my way around, because if you just strip it going down, I mean, some people may argue and say it doesn't hurt anything, but I've always done it this way and I haven't had any issues. But I'm sure the guys that strip it, I'm sure they'll probably end up saying the same thing if they don't have issues either. But whatever you feel like, you know, you're comfortable with. I say just do that. But me, I say it doesn't take but a couple extra minutes of your time just to do it this way. You can tell it comes apart extremely easy once you get past that head, because all it is like that slimy stuff. And this may actually help with fleshing too, I don't know, by doing it this way. It might be less material on it, like less bad stuff that you need on it. Because if you just pull and strip it that way, maybe it, you know, leaves a whole bunch of extra. I don't know. Like I said, I've never just pulled it. Because also, to be able to take your neck measurements, you're measuring the neck itself once you get it out. And if you've stretched it, you know, you could be popping those vertebrae and making the neck longer than what it needs to be. So if you're having issues with, you know, people are telling you on Facebook or whatever, hey, like your neck is too long, this could be part of your issue. You could be stretching out that neck prior to even getting a measurement on it. Let's see what I mean by, You almost just wrap your fingers around it and just put a little bit of tension on it just to reveal that connective tissue, and just ring it. But that's how I skin a head. Super easy. Once you get into it and you've done it a few times, I say at least do it once. I learned pretty fast by just doing things once, and then critiquing and then going back and changing it. But once you feel it out and you've done it once and you have an idea of like what to do, especially around the eye and around the ear, it's pretty simple from there. But hopefully that helps y'all. If you have a question on skinning heads, if you have any more questions, just leave them down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, hit like on the video, leave a comment and tell me, hey, you're an idiot, or I really like this video, because it helps me out with analytics and also gives me an idea of if I should keep doing small videos like this on breaking down certain stuff, or should I just do, you know, like a beginning, middle, end process, that sort of thing. But there's tons of different steps that I can do with taxidermy. But hope you all liked the video. I'm going to go ahead and shut up, get back to this bird. I've been Chris, this has been Duckalope Outdoors, and y'all stay safe out there. See you on the next one.